The flight from Miami to New York was supposed to be routine, quiet, even uneventful. But nothing about that day would remain ordinary once arrogance collided with power in the confined space of 30,000 feet above the earth. The cabin was full, every seat taken, the air thick with impatience as passengers settled in. At row 4B, a woman in a tailored navy suit sat with quiet poise, her eyes calm, her demeanor collected. Her name was Cassandra Lee. She was neither loud nor demanding, blending in with the rest, but there was a gravity about her presence, a kind of restrained authority she carried like a hidden crown. The flight attendant assigned to the front section, however, was the opposite. Marissa, known among her colleagues for her short fuse and sharp tongue, walked the aisle with a false smile that rarely reached her eyes. She was already irritated by minor requests from passengers, snapping at one for adjusting their carry-on and rolling her eyes at another who dared to ask for an extra blanket. When Cassandra pressed the call button, she did it politely. She needed only a glass of water. Marissa arrived, her steps stiff, her tone clipped. "What is it now?" she hissed, leaning in with exaggerated annoyance. "Just a glass of water, please," Cassandra said evenly, her voice neither demanding nor meek. Marissa's lips tightened. "You could have waited until service starts. We don't run a private kitchen here." She turned sharply on her heel, muttering loud enough for nearby passengers to hear, "Some people think they own the place." When she returned, she all but slammed the plastic cup onto Cassandra's tray. The water splashed, catching the edge of Cassandra's sleeve. Cassandra simply dabbed it with a napkin, her eyes never rising to meet the outburst. That calm unnerved Marissa. She wanted submission, irritation, something to prove her power over a paying passenger. Minutes later, turbulence rattled the plane. The captain's voice came over the intercom, instructing everyone to remain seated with belts fastened. A passenger across the aisle grew anxious, fumbling with his bag, and Cassandra leaned slightly to reassure him. Marissa, already on edge, saw Cassandra shift in her seat and stormed over. "I said sit down," she barked, her voice sharp enough to draw the attention of half the cabin. "I am sitting," Cassandra replied calmly. "I was only—" The words were cut short by a sudden sting. Marissa's hand, quick and violent, had struck Cassandra across the face. The sound of the slap cracked through the air like lightning, leaving the cabin in stunned silence. Gasps rippled down the rows. No one had ever seen a flight attendant cross that line. For a long second, Cassandra didn't move. Her cheek bore the mark, but her composure never broke. She turned her head slowly, her gaze meeting Marissa's with a quiet authority that chilled the reckless woman to her core. "You've just made a very grave mistake," she said softly. Passengers whispered nervously as the situation escalated. Some pulled out their phones, already recording, while others looked to the cabin crew, who stood frozen in disbelief. It wasn't until the plane landed that the true weight of the moment revealed itself. As police officers and airline supervisors crowded near the gate to address the incident, Cassandra walked off the plane with her measured grace, straightened her jacket, and spoke a few words that turned every head. "My name is Cassandra Lee," she said, her voice calm, but carrying an undeniable force. "I am the majority shareholder of this airline. This aircraft, technically speaking, is mine." The silence that followed was deafening. Marissa's face drained of color, her arrogance evaporating instantly. The passengers erupted in murmurs, some in disbelief, others nodding in vindicated satisfaction. Cassandra didn't raise her voice, didn't show anger. She simply handed her business card to the supervisor. "Suspend her pending review, effective immediately. And make sure every passenger on this flight receives compensation for what they endured today." The camera still rolling captured everything: the slap, the declaration, the downfall. By the time Marissa was escorted away in tears, the world had already started watching. And Cassandra? She walked away without a trace of the sting on her cheek, carrying herself like someone who never needed to shout to be heard. For she didn't just own the plane, she owned the power to decide who belonged in the skies and who would never fly again.